Hello everybody, my name is Mrs Moore and I'm the lead teacher for history at Richmond School, and I'm here to talk a little bit about our GCSE course and what we do and some of the reasons perhaps what you might think about doing the course. So the good news is that actually you will have already done some of our GCSE course. That's really exciting because we've already started a bit of it in year 9. So the work that you have been doing so far last term and into this term about the Treaty of Versailles, the League of Nations, and then Hitler's foreign policy, that is all one of our units. It's about international relations, 1918 to 1939. So how countries work with each other and sort of like looking at it from a world perspective. We'll already have covered that by the time we start the GCSE in year 10. It is something that we're planning on revisiting in year 11 and doing lots of revision on, so don't worry if you haven't quite got the hang of all of it, don't worry about that at all. But sort of like you've already done a quarter of the actual course. This tells you a little bit, or shows you some pictures about what it's all about people like Neville Chamberlain, who you'll come to know quite well, and sort of like the defences that they put up, and things to do with sort of like Hitler. And realistically, it is about sort of like, why the Second World War broke out, why the First World War wasn't the war to end all wars, and why there ended up being a Second World War. So that's the bit that you'll know a little bit about already and hopefully got a feel for already. And that's Hitler invading Poland in 1939. In year 10, what we do is the first topic for the first half of the year, we study health of the nation. Now that's very different to what we've been doing this year, really different. This year is very much about countries and what they're all doing. And then health of the nation is what we call a breadth study. So it's looking at a long period of history. It's looking from the year 1000 all the way through to 2021 to present day. And there's loads going on in medicine at the moment, and there's some of the things that we actually talk about. And we look at what people thought were the cause of illnesses, we think about what all the cures were, we look at surgery, we look at public health, which is fascinating, sort of like the setting of the NHS and how that happened, development of new drugs like penicillin, anaesthetics, antiseptics. There's loads to do, and we meet some really, really interesting and fun people on the way. So that's half of year 10. And then in the second half of year 10, we do a depth study. So we look at a part of British history, and it's not more modern history as we perhaps are used to doing. We go back and do Elizabethan England. And in Elizabethan England, we look at Queen Elizabeth herself and what she did and the powers that she had. But we also look at what it was like to live in Elizabethan England. So we look at what it was like if you were very rich in Elizabethan England or very poor in Elizabethan England. We also have a look at some of the big events like the Spanish Armada we do quite a bit about, Mary Queen of Scots, all sorts of things that were going on at that time. We have to do a specific site study, and we have in the past we've done Hardwick Hall, we've done the Globe Theatre, we've done Kenilworth Castle, where basically you look at an Elizabethan building in lots of detail and see how that fits in with all the knowledge and all the things that you have learned. So that's what we'll be doing in year 10, some very different history to perhaps what you've done in year 9. So one of the good things about the history course is the variety. There's lots of different elements to it. There's a lovely operation that's being done with no anaesthetics at all. And then here's Elizabeth, and this is a very famous picture of her because you can see there is the Spanish Armada, and that's it being shipwrecked. And you can see her power because she has her hand on the globe. So there's all sorts of things that we look at, which is good fun. Then in year 11, we do one unit and we do Germany. And this is what our year 11s are doing at the moment and really enjoying. And we go from Germany in 1890 with the Kaiser, and we go all the way through to 1945. So we look at the impact of the First World War and why the Kaiser abdicates. We look at the rise of the Nazi Party, what it's like to live in Germany between the wars. We look at how Hitler got into power because he was voted into power. How on earth did that happen? And then what we're looking at the moment is life in Nazi Germany and lots of different aspects to do with that. So we're going to do look at all sorts of things like the economic recovery after sort of like the depression and hyperinflation. We look at the policies to do with Jews. We look at arts. We look at Hitler Youth. There's all sorts of things that we look at. And you notice the date goes right up to 1945. So we look at the impact of the Second World War as well, which is, obviously quite a major impact on people. And there's Hitler looking very shouty. Why take GCSE history? Well, I would always say, whatever GCSE you decide to do something you enjoy, because that is really, really important that you do that. Because you're going to be studying it. You're going to have 5 lessons a fortnight. It's important that you do a subject that you enjoy doing. History, I think, is important because I think it helps you understand the world that you live in. All right, we live in a very strange world at the moment, and there are lots of interesting ways that it makes you look at today's society in a very, very different way. I've been teaching the year 10th this year all about the Black Death and the Great Plague of 1665 and how they had quarantine and put people in isolation, with some really interesting parallels to today. The power of governments and and when we're looking at Nazi Germany, really interesting about how we look at society and how we learn about the world that we live in. The other reason to do history is, one of the reasons is because employers and universities really regard it very, very highly. Right? They see it as being, it's not an easy A-level and not an easy GCSE to do, it isn't, but it's one that they know that is challenging and that students do tend to do very, very well in. Some of the things that history is about and the related professions: history is about people. It's all about people, isn't it? About why people do things and their reasons for it and their attitudes. And that links into all sorts of different jobs. It's all about inquiry and finding out and finding information. And again, there are lots of jobs that involve that. It's also about not just believing what you see. And I actually think that's really important. It's about learning to question things. We're looking at year 11 at the moment at Nazi propaganda and really questioning about like how they put out the propaganda and why people fell for it, and seeing how it fits in with our evidence. And again, fits in with lots of jobs. History is also about debate. It's all about debate. It's all about looking at both sides of the argument and then coming to conclusions and writing down your ideas. And there are lots of jobs connected with that. And it's all about causes, why things happen, consequences, the results. It's all about changes and continuities. And again, lots of jobs that are connected to those. So it's connected to many different career paths. One thing that we do like to do, if we can, and obviously it just depends a little bit, is to try and get out on some visits. In the past, we have been to the Thackeray Medical Museum in Leeds. We've been to the Royal Armouries in Leeds as well. We did a really brilliant workshop with them, and we also went to the Doctor's Show and saw a piece of brilliant theatre, really fun, brilliant theatre, all about the history of medicine. If we can get to the specialist site for our Elizabethan work, we do. We went a couple of years ago to the pop-up theatre in York, where they built a Globe Theatre in York. We went to that with English, and we took a school trip there. So if we can do visits, then we do try and do them. And whatever you decide to do, if you've got any questions or anything you'd like to ask, then you're very, very welcome to email me or ask any of your teachers about it. Thank you very much.